Well, Matthew offers us a story about sheep and goats. To the sheep, he says, "Come and enter the kingdom you have inherited." To the goats, he says, "Depart from me into the eternal fire." This is also oftentimes called the parable of the Last Judgment. But I am quick to believe that this story does not represent a literal description of the Last Judgment. It's a parable. It's designed to get our attention, to make a point, to engage our minds into active thought. So I think in this parable, Matthew is talking to people who have more than enough, people who have a capacity to share. The gospel writer that we call Matthew must have been a pastor of a church or maybe a bishop of a group of churches. He was very concerned about showing that Jesus was the long-awaited Jewish Messiah. He wanted that good news to be spread not only in his churches, but far and wide. It sounds to me that Matthew was aware that there were some people in the church who felt like they had already done enough. They had been baptized. They had accepted Jesus as their Savior. That was all they needed to do. Compassion, forgiveness, justice. No. They had done it all already. Matthew knew people like that. Jesus knew people like that. We do know people like that. Discipleship, Matthew wanted to say, means more. It means something else. It means action, a love of neighbor, service to the hungry, the thirsty, the ill-clad, and the lonely. So we are told that Jesus gathered the nations of the world, and he looks over both sides, the left and the right, the sheep and the goats, and he said, Did you see me? Did you see me in your life's journey? Did you see me? Well, no, said the goats. We didn't see you. And the sheep said, no, we didn't see you. The goats said no because they were not looking. They did not respond to human need. They ignored human suffering. The sheep said no because compassion and care had become second nature to them. It was part of their DNA. It was just the way things they did. So the parable has a tendency to land in our laps and asks us the question, what about us? We who, I dare say, have more than enough and have a capacity to share. So I spoke with Jessica Gardner down at Bacon, who told me something very interesting about Benzie County. She said, in the wintertime, when you count up the people of our county who live here, we are one of the most impoverished counties in the state of Michigan. In the summertime, when we count up the people who live here, we are one of the wealthiest counties in the state of Michigan. Now, outsiders would think that would be ridiculous and can't possibly be true, but we understand that. She told me that they count 11% of our population of our county as living in poverty, below the poverty line. But she said there's another way of counting poverty. It's called ALICE. ALICE is an acronym, A-L-I-C-E. Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. It's talking about the working poor. She told me that for a family of four, it takes $60,000 a year to provide for all their needs: housing, food, clothing, education, transportation, etc. The basics. And she said that in addition to the 11% who are below the poverty line, there's another 25% of our residents who are considered ALICE. I suspect that that means that there are about 36% of our county that are struggling. And it's probably because so many of our jobs are part-time, seasonal, and minimum wage. I was hungry, and you gave me food. Bacon passes passes out what they call backpack sacks. They give them to students in our county schools, and it is basically food for the weekend. They give out 300 backpack sacks every single week. I was hungry, and you gave me food. I talked to Doug Duran down at the Benzie Senior Resources, who told me that they served in the last fiscal year 2,065 seniors in Benzie County. Meals, in-home service, snow plowing, cleaning, produce bags, etc. The need, as we all know, is right here at our doorstep. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. Habitat for Humanity builds a home every year, providing high-quality, energy-efficient housing for people of low and medium income. It provides a pathway to home ownership, and it gets people out of substandard housing. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. In the midst of that, I know that there are many churches in our county who are doing great ministry. I'm very impressed with what St. Philip's is doing with their baby pantry here. I know that the service is very, very vital, and there is much need, and I understand that the need is growing. I also know that up at our friends up at St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church have a program called STAMP, in which they send volunteers out into the community to do great volunteer work. And over at the Congregational Church in Benzonia, they partner with the Father Fred Foundation to provide over new shoes, new brand name new shoes for over 100 children. Plus they offer screenings for dental, vision, and hearing. Many churches in our county are doing great service. With these efforts, we are trying to break the cycle of poverty, to end this vicious circle where families, generation after generation, live with need. Or, as our old friend Archbishop Desmond Tutu used to say, we need to stop pulling people out of the river and go upstream and find out why they're falling in. So Jesus said, I was hungry, and you fed me, thirsty, and you gave me something to drink, naked, and you clothed me, sick and in prison, and you took care of me. But there's one other matter that we must not overlook. He also said, I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I don't think he was necessarily talking about neighbors moving in next door, although we need to be good neighbors to those around us. I think he was talking about the foreigners in our midst. And when here in our country we talk about foreigners, we're talking about migrants and immigration. I know that immigration is a hot topic with our politicians, but I want to be quick to say that I think we need immigration. We have an aging population and a very low birth rate. And some of the people who keep track of these statistics say that very soon we will be in a decline in our population, and some say it's already happened. We need immigration. I don't care where they come from, what they look like, the language they speak, or the religions they profess. We need people, especially young adults. And when they come to our shores, to welcome them as strangers in our midst means that we should be assuring them of adequate housing, education, health care, and jobs. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. So Jesus divided the nations like a shepherd divides sheep and goats. The goats, it seems to me, were the ones who were confident that they have done everything they needed to do. Meanwhile, they failed to see Jesus in the face of the poor. I'm sure they would consider themselves good Christians, but they were deceiving themselves. About 25 years ago, I lived in a small town and had a friend who was a Lutheran pastor, Greg. One time we decided to attend a pastor's conference in the capital city. We sent in our registration forms, and I made a reservation at the hotel right next to the conference center. On the appointed day, we threw our suitcases into the trunk of the car and drove up to the big city, went into the parking lot of the hotel, went in and checked in at the desk. I gave them the name, and the woman started pecking away on her computer, shaking her head, saying, "No, we don't have any reservation by that name." "Oh," I said, "you must. I made the reservation. It's in my name." "Is there another name?" "No, another name. It's my name." She kept pecking away and shaking her head, saying, "No, I don't see any reservation in that name." So we said, "Ma'am," we decided to pull rank, I guess. "Ma'am, we are pastors. We are attending a pastor's conference. We need that room." She said, "Everybody here is a pastor. That's why the place is full. We have no other rooms left." But she kept pecking away on her computer. We decided to stretch the truth a little bit. "Ma'am, we have major responsibilities in this conference. We need that room." She pecked away at her computer quite a bit. "No," shaking her head. Finally, she looked over the screen of her monitor, and she said, "You wouldn't happen to be Episcopalians, would you?" "Would it be to our advantage if we were?" "Oh, yes, the bishop has reserved a block of rooms on the 8th floor." "Well, why didn't you say so? Father Greg and Father Tim have now arrived." But she saw right through us. It didn't work. And I was reminded in that episode again and again that it does not work to try to pretend that something that I am to be something that I am not. And it certainly doesn't work to try to pretend when Jesus is around that we are something that we are not. I think these ones who were called the goats were pretending to be Jesus' followers, and that will never work. But the sheep looked at life differently. And when we, who have plenty to give, make compassion and care part of our living, we find ourselves living with days of great satisfaction, contentment, and joy. And we will be blessed to hear those words, "Come, inherit